Yeah, what I say? I told you they ain't got no love for you, they ain't come on with you. What I say? I told you there was no real niggas, now you gotta deal with them. What I say? I told you she ain't got no love for you, she don't really fuck with you. What I say? I told you take care of your fam, stand on your square, be a man. What I say? I told you they ain't got no love for you, if they ain't come on with you. What I say? I told you there was no real niggas, now you gotta deal with it. What I say? I told you she ain't got no love for you, she don't really fuck with you. What I say? I told you take care of your fam, stand on the square, be a man. A cold world, I know. Time moves fast when you tryna chase a bag, that's facts. At last, niggas finally see a check, haters wanna knock you off your apex. They mad. Cause your bitch ain't loyal, broke the code, put a price on her soul. Get a hold of your life, you could blow overnight, or you could fuck it all and lose control. Suicide, it's a suicide, yeah, it's a big difference between you and I. And I'm super straight, they say you 6 million ways to die, choose your fate. I ain't gonna lose the case, prove your worth, nigga, move your weight. Keep your nose clean for you lose your face. What up your face value? We don't know your face. I step up in this bitch like I own the place. I pay close attention to their tone and pace. Is he really built? Will he fold a break? Life is guns and water, baby boy, you straight. And I got it in me to hand, I mean I hold your fate. Never know, it could be your time to go today. Who knows a nigga like me might show.
It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated. It's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate. That's true.
Your question is having said when an airliner crashed with a number of white people on board, that you were glad it happened. The white race in this country collectively are guilty
Of these crimes that our people are suffering from collectively, and therefore they will suffer some collective disaster, collective grief. And when that plane crashed in France with 130 white people off,
no one man should withstand the weight of the world on his shoulders and die when it's over. Ain't no global warming, the world getting colder. Ain't nobody doing shit, they taking our culture. Wake up and see y'all, ain't no balance on one side of the seesaw. We at war with Esau, and ain't nobody down with us. My niggas get up. I know what it's like to wake up fucked up. I know what it's like when the pain cut deep. You can't get on your feet and you just wanna stay asleep. When this shit too much, a nigga needs to roll up. You know you got it. Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy. Why niggas hate me? Show me no mercy. Brother forsake me, woman that hurt me. Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy. Okay, walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that send me blow. Put up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put up body on me gun wide. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that send me blow. Put up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put up body on the gun wide. Mercy, mercy, the wicked have no mercy. So I gotta stay with a blick of niggas be thirsty. Quicker than the flick of a picture, niggas can murk me. Catch you with your dick in these bitches and do you dirty. But I'm God body, I put that shit on the jersey. No weapon formed against me should hurt me. Go to war on your turf, I put you under the surface. Mac 10s, Mac 11s, call a nigga Bernie. Open up the chest of a nickel, them bitches burning. Living by the scripture that's written in this discernment. I see that window closing, can't be playing in the curtains. I ain't playing like the circus. I'm a man with a purpose. Can't be laying with the serpents. Keep the squares out your circle. You ain't standing on your word. What kind of man are you? X you out, cross you over. I had to shell guide you. Can't stop a nigga drive the beat. They can't guard you. Hell have no fury compared to what God do. I'm a whole gangster, my nigga, not partial. 38 special. This nigga think he's special. I go ahead to punch you. I ain't finna argue. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that city blow. Pull up up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on the gun. Why? Walk like a champion. Talk like a champion. You don't hear that city glow. Run, pump, 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 pump. Put up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on the gun. Why? Look. Nigga, all that shit you said ain't felt. I don't take you as serious as you take yourself. Niggas steady playing, better play where it's safe. Never know who I'm locked in with around your way. I don't like no bad energy around my space. The label good green, nigga, what's good, you straight? Niggas talking crazy, that's a big mistake. Dreadlock driller made his twist of fate. Had to spin that nigga around like 360 ways. You don't know how I get out, fully I've been on edge. I can't let that slide, don't be that guy. Red Bull gives you, nah, little nigga ain't lie. This Desert Eagle gives you wings once I let that bitch fly. This Eagle Eye vision on this level of mine.
What's good? We back. Shalom. What's cracking? We here now. You know, what's good, what's good? I know you see the title. It was written in red. The prophecies of the Messiah, right? We'll get into it. Of course. You know, before we start giving all praises to the Most High God, Yahweh, we do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. Who the world might know as Jesus Christ, right? We're going to get into it. So, yeah. We're going to get into, we'll start with Luke 21. Go to Luke 21 and all that cool stuff, right? We're going to get to a couple prophecies and stuff dealing with our people and what Christ said, what would happen and stuff. You know, because Christ had, you know, prophecies and stuff as well, right? You know, in dealing with this institution that we got, this society that we live in, it caused a lot of us to be stubborn and hard-headed and comfortable in the system to where, you know, we, you know, don't see the wrong or anything was going on. And because the system caters to our likes and wants, it's hard for us to break out of the matrix, right? And that's what we got to do, break out of the matrix. Let's go to First Maccabees real quick. First Maccabees, chapter 1. You know, because we had, even back then, you know, our people had a problem of snapping out of the matrix, right? They did not want to snap out, and we got to snap out. Let's get First Maccabees, chapter 1 and 11, right? And it says this: in those days went there out of Israel wicked men, right? So even back then, you know, it says in those days went there out of Israel wicked men. So the Bible is calling these people wicked, right? And it says, who pursue many, saying, let us go and make a covenant. Hold on, guys. Okay, cool. No, wait in there, okay, little man. I'll be done in a second, all right? I'll check it out, okay? Thank you. So yeah, it says, in those days went out. So the Bible's calling those people wicked men. It says, in those days went out of Israel wicked men who persuade many, saying. So, you know, they was wicked and they persuade many to follow after. It says this. It says, and persuade many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that is around about us. For since we have departed from them, we have much sorrow. So that's what a lot of these coons and Uncle Toms feel like, that we're better off with Master. You know, like, you know, they always want to include Master in everything that we try to build. You know, if somebody say, hey, you know, heaven, you know, hey, black man, Hispanic man, heaven is open. Let's go. You know, come on, get all the black people, you know, all the Mexicans, you know. You know, a good portion of us will be like, well, what about white people? You know, where are they going to go? And that's sad. You know why that's sad? Because they won't ask the same question about you. If somebody say, hey, white people, gather all the white people you know, heaven is open, let's go, we up in there. They gonna be like, all right. They ain't gonna be like, hey, what about the niggers? What about the niggers? They ain't gonna never say that. You'll never hear a Chinese person say, oh, well, what about? But we are so loving, so caring for everyone else except for ourselves that we would say such a thing, right? That's why the Bible says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men. So God is calling Uncle Toms, right? Traitors, people that want to assimilate into this society to be like master. What did God say? Wicked men who persuade many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have much sorrow. And that's what a lot of our Christian pastors do. They, attach themselves to this government, and they don't speak against the government, right? You'll never hear them talk about World War III and what's going on over there. They over there still singing and dancing, getting everybody money, right? Never telling the people the truth, right? Because, this place pay their bills. This sinful lifestyle that this place concocted has made a lot of wicked people rich, right? So why would they change and want to change, right? So the Bible is calling those of our people wicked, right? So we understand that. Let's get this. So Luke 21:5. Let's start there. It says, some spake of the temple, of how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts, he said. So, we got the temple, people donating, giving gifts, sacrifices, whatever, right? Making the temple look nice, beautifying the temple, right? Everybody, the temple was one of the 8 wonders of the world, right? Everybody came to Jerusalem to see the great Solomon temple. And it says, as for these things which ye behold, the days will come in which there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So he's speaking of 70 AD, right? When the Romans, expelled the Israelites out of Judea and kicked us out and spread us out throughout the 4 corners of the world, right? And he's speaking of it in Titus Vespasian, I think that's his name, was, spearheading that, that destruction of the city, right? And he's speaking of when that time to come in the future, because scholars, certain scholars, how we have the BC date and stuff like that, BC, AD, and all that stuff, which let you know how important Christ is, that we base time off of his life. But most scholars would say, although we say BC, before Christ, AD, right? But most scholars would say, some scholars would say that he was born 4 AD, right? So that would probably make when he died 37 AD when he died, So now after he died 70 AD, right? So that's like about then there 40 some years later, that's when they destroyed Jerusalem, and we got scattered, went to the west coast of Africa, Europe, and etc. And now we're stuck over here. But yeah, that's what he's speaking of. So it says, not one left, not be left one stone upon another shall not be thrown down. And they asked him, saying, Master, but when these things shall be, and what signs will there be when these things shall come to pass? Right? So they're like, okay, when, what to look for, right? And it says, and he said, take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, right? And that's what's going on. We have a lot of religions out here that's professing to be the word of God. And I say this all the time, especially since I found out. I know it was a lot of denominations, but they took this book here and they made over 40,000 different, not 40. Okay, it's a 40, then a comma, and 3 more zeros. 40,000 variations of Christianity off this book, right? That's why Christ is telling us, take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. And the time draw nigh, and the time draw near, go ye not therefore after them. So we should not be following after these various religions, because the Most High God did not give us religion. He gave us laws and commandments. That's what he gave us. He didn't give us, you know, how the old folks say, that old time religion, right? You know, he gave us customs and culture. That's what he gave us. That's what we to do, to follow our customs and culture. And so let's get this real quick. It's Joshua, real quick. It's Joshua 1:8. And to tell us this. It says, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth. Right? So that's what this is. It's the book of the law. It says, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to what is written therein, for thou shalt make thy way prosperous. Right? So that's what this is. It's the way to make our way prosperous. The book of the law. If we keep the laws, we will live. If we don't keep the laws, we will die. Right? And it says to make our ways prosperous. And then thou shalt have good success. Right? That's what this book is about. Right? It's our history and our law. And I say this all the time. There's no difference if America take their history, the history of America, and their Constitution, and just put it all in one book. That's what we're reading here, right? Hold on. Still lock here real quick. Push this thing. Yeah. So yeah, right? So that's what we're dealing with, the law. But we have over 40,000 different variations of Christianity, right? Then, you know, let alone other religions that our people end up getting mixed up into, right? So, verse 9. And it says, but when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, but not terrified, these things must, but be not terrified, these things must first come to pass. But the end is not by and by, right? So, I mean, there's still other stuff going on. We seeing wars and rumors of wars, right? We seeing commotions going on. We seeing civil unrest, right? You know, we seeing these things happening, right? It says, and then he said unto them, nation shall rise against nation. We're seeing global war about to take place, right? We see Iran and Israel, America and Iran, Israel and Yemen, right? All these different countries going at it. And like I said before, it's over 56 global conflicts going on now. But we only focus on the big three, right? Russia, Israel, and China, right? So, but there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of commotions, right? Then it says, and nation shall rise against nation, and great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, right? And that's what's going on here. There was an earthquake a few days ago, right? Let's check this out, right? Fair use, of course.
Earthquake in the Chicago area.
We are just...
Earthquake just happened in Lake Michigan, right? How many people know about that, right? Earthquake just happened in Lake Michigan. And And although at the southern tip of Illinois, we have a fault line, but nobody thought about, tremors in Lake Michigan, right? But fair use, our thoughts and comments, right?
A rare
Our thoughts and
earthquake
comments.
in the Chicago area.
We are just getting details on this. The quake apparently centered in Lake Michigan. Meteorologist Larry Mowry here with more on that and also some stormy weather headed our way. Larry.
Yeah, Judy and Rob, looking at some of the data, this looks like to be the only second earthquake under Lake Michigan in the past 100 years. There was one other earthquake up around Sturgeon Bay up in Wisconsin about in 2024. This is the second one that we've reported in the past 100 years from the data I've looked at. And it was a 2.9 magnitude earthquake about 12 miles offshore here from the Lake Cook County line at 2:39 this afternoon. It was 3.1 miles deep, and to give you some reference, the deepest point of Lake Michigan is 0.17 miles deep. So this was well under the lake, down in the ground level here, well below the water level, and that was at 2:39 this afternoon. I also looked at the buoy data. There was no impact to wave heights during that time frame, so it really had no impact on the lake. Most of us never felt it. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody that's reported it, but the seismographs picked up on that earthquake from earlier this afternoon. And what I've done here is I've plotted all the earthquakes since 1985 here in our area. There have been about 7 or 8 of them across our area since 1985, most of them in the 2 to 3.0 range. There was a 4.2 back in 2004 back in LaSalle County.
So now, Lake Michigan, tremors, right? Okay, well, people will say, well, it was light. I remember several years
on the
ago.
lakefront today, and whether they felt.
Remember several years ago, I was in my bed, and we had like some tremors, right? It shook me out the bed to the floor, right? This was several years ago. But yeah, so we get earthquakes. They're not, as pronounced as other places be, but just like how when a car is stuck in a ditch, right? And you rock it back and forth. You start with the little rocks. Then as you rock it, it get bigger and bigger. Then pretty soon you're able to get the car out the ditch. These little quakes, they build up over time, right? And it's only a matter of time. Because the Bible do say that this place will be broken into 3 places, right? It says that great city will be split in 3, right? So that's what we got going on here. Here, let's play this one.
You're tracking something else.
It's something that's a bit odd and unusual for us here in the Pacific.
You're tracking something else.
It's something that's a bit odd and unusual for us here in the Pacific Northwest. We're talking about an earthquake happening inland, so along the coast range, not in the Pacific Ocean this time.
This is
Well,
Oregon.
and it's just to the east of the Lincoln City area, happening right around 1:25 this afternoon. We've only gotten a few reports, a total of 2 coming from the United States Geological Survey, the USGS, of that report of a 2.6 magnitude earthquake. Closest city, well, that's Rose Lodge, Oregon. So definitely a bit of an oddity for us, as we typically see the rumblings of the earth beneath the Pacific Ocean further off to the west. But of course, if you happen to have felt that, we would love to hear from you by heading to coin.com.
So yeah, we got stuff going on in Oregon, right? And even in
Double
Venezuela.
earthquakes in Venezuela has now passed 4,000 people. At least 4,118 people are dead, nearly 17,000 injured following the 7.2 and 7.5 magnitude earthquakes that struck on June 24th in the northern part of the country. Also, more than 18,000.
And the interesting thing, I think, along that same fault line, because where Venezuela lies, and they share that same fault line. I think they around what they call the Ring of Fire, that goes all the way up the west coast too. So perhaps that Ain't hold up. I get on the AV department. That was an earthquake right there. I like it. I like it. There we go. So like it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah. So yeah, this like they share that same fault line, right? And so I just thought that was interesting that this happened and you had those quakes going up the west coast and Oregon and all that, right?
Venezuelans are now past 4,000 people. At least 4,118 people are dead, nearly 17,000 injured following the 7.2 and 7.5 magnitude earthquakes that struck on June 24th in the northern part of the country. Also, more than 18,000 Venezuelans are also displaced and thousands still missing.
By the
third, fourth day, looters started breaking in and they went through all the drawers, the suitcases, everything. Today we came down to see if anything was left, and we were able to recover a television and some photos.
Venezuela has opened more than 80 shelters for people who are now homeless. The Pan American Health Organization is monitoring potential outbreaks of respiratory or digestive illnesses and is urging access to vaccines.
So yeah, there you have it. Right? So it says, and great earthquakes shall be in diverse places. Right? And we see these things happening, right? And this, it's, stuff happening all over the world. And famines and pestilence. And fearful sights. And great signs should be from heaven. Be there from heaven. Right? And we're seeing the blood moons and stuff that was the other little rare moon that happened last month. Then even if you want to go a little extraterritorial with it, with the so-called sightings of the UFOs and stuff like that. So, or different atmospheric activity that people are seeing. And it says, and great signs should be from heaven. But before all these, they shall lie their hands on you and persecute you. Right? And that's what's going on to our people. We've been getting persecuted throughout these United Snakes of America, throughout this Western world. Persecuted, right? To this day. Right? And they shall persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and unto prisons, and being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. Right? That's why they come against us. Not because we're, racism is a symptom of their hatred. Their hatred is because we are God's people. Right? And their racism is just a symptom of their hatred towards us. Right? Say like you hate somebody. If you ever hated somebody so bad, right? Like for example, because I know some people out there, they too sensitive and soft. They don't like the word hate. So just use somebody else, like Kendrick Lamar. When Kendrick Lamar was going at Drake, and he said, "I hate the way you walk, the way you talk, the way that you dress." Right? So if when you have a disdain for a person, everything they does or everything about them, you will hate it. So racism is a symptom of their hatred for us being God's people, right? Then it says, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you. That's what they've been doing you know, our young brother went out on a boat trip with them boys down there and never made it back, right? And, you know, they lying about it. Pretty sure with one of their parents being a judge, they're going to do their darndest to cover it up, right? Oftentimes, you know, police pull us over, fear for our life, heart beating fast, nervousness, don't know if you're going to make it out the situation or not, right? Because they persecute us, right? They throw us into their prisons. That's why, you know, we overpopulate their prisons and their prison systems when we only make up 12 to 13% of the population, right? It says, and shall turn for my name's sake, and shall turn you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before you shall answer. Right? So meaning don't be all nervous and thinking about, oh, how I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna do this, right? You know, because the Most High God guides our speech, our words, right? He gives us the wisdom and the knowledge. As long as we stand on truth and how they say, stand on business. We standing on business. We standing on business, right? As long as you stand on business, the Most High God give us the words to speak, right? Because it tells us this: for I will give you a mouth and wisdom which your adversaries should not be able to gainsay nor resist, right? And that's what we got, you know. We got the ability, how they say, the gift of gab, right? We got the ability to lawyer, you know, any situation that we in. Because the Most High God gave us the ability to speak. He said this right here in our dear brother Ezekiel. Ezekiel 3:1. It says this. It says, moreover, he said unto me, son of man, eat that thou findest, eat this roll, and go speak to the house of Israel. Right? So, the Most High God telling us to take this knowledge, take this wisdom, and go to the house of Israel. Go teach the people, right? You know, teach these people, right? And it says, so I will open my mouth, and I will cause me to, so I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat that roll. So it wasn't like an actual physical roll. It was talking about the, you know, the knowledge and wisdom of God. The law, statutes, and commandments that we should keep. And it says, and he said unto me, son of man, cause thy belly to eat, and fill thy bowels with this roll that I give thee. Then I eat it. Excuse me. Then I eat it, and it was in my mouth as honey and sweetness, right? You know, because the truth, you know, the truth is sweet and it's good, you know, and you want to share it, right? And it says, and he said unto me, son of man, go and get thee the house of Israel and speak with my words unto them, right? So the Most High God give you the words to speak, right? Like when Christ came here, Christ said, I don't, you know, do my own will, but the one who sent me, right? You know, because Christ came here with orders, right? He wasn't out here just willy-nilly doing whatever he wanted to do, right? And it says, it says, and he said unto me, son of man, go and get thee unto the house of Israel and speak with my words unto them. For thou art not sent to a strange speech in a hard language, but to the house of Israel. Meaning God is like, look, I'm not sending you to nobody else, no other nation of people, but to the house of Israel. I'm not sending you to a strange nation to go preach to them. You know, I'm sending you to your own people, the house of Israel, right? Because like we just read, this book of the law, that's what this book is. It's not no come all ye all, hear type of book. This book is only for the Israelites, right? And he tells us here, for thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech and of a hard language. Meaning, we're not sending you to foreigners, people you don't know, right? It says, but to the house of Israel. That's who this is for, right? Not too many of the strange speech and of the hard language, of whose words thou cannot understand. Surely I have sent thee to them. They would have hearkened unto thee. Right? So God's saying, if I hadn't sent you to the strangers, this is how our people, this is why the Bible likened us to sheep, right? And some people get offended, like, oh, well, I don't like that Bible, because the Bible calls us sheep. Well, quit being a damn sheep, right? And that's why we're likened to sheep, because God is saying, if I was dealing with other nations, if I was to send a prophet to these other nations, they will hear me. They will listen. He says, surely had I sent thee unto them, they would have hearkened unto thee. So God is saying, look, if this truth was given to any other people, they will hearken. But we wouldn't, because we'll be worrying about everybody else. Like I said earlier, if the gates of heaven was open, we'll be worrying about, can Master come with us too, right? But the Bible just told us the other people will listen, and we know they will listen, because we can see examples of, when they falsify their religion off our book, like i.e. Islam, right? They thought God was, talking to them. They created a whole religion and carved them a whole little section of the world out, right? And doing things under the assumption that God was speaking through Ishmael, right? So they listen. The so-called guy with the little stuff hanging from the side and the coasters sitting on top of his head, the ones with the pussy willow hats. Ooh, I like that one. It's a new one I just got. Ooh, pussy willow hats. That was a thing back in Russia that was protesting, at the little cloth little hats they used to wear, to protest. So yeah, those people, right? They kidnap our culture and took it by force and inserted themselves in it because they felt that they had the right to. And look how they, together, the synergy over there, right? So that's how we are God's people, because we do not listen. We have a hard time of listening to what thus said the Lord. We want to listen to everything else but what the Bible say. But the house of Israel would not hearken unto thee, for they would not hearken unto me, for all the house of Israel are imprudent and hard-hearted, right? Meaning we just hard-headed. We don't like to listen. That's why we have this attitude. Who does nigga think he talking to, right? Ain't nobody can tell me what to do, right? I do what I want, right? We had an attitude that nobody can tell us what to do, right? What credentials do you have to tell me anything, right? We want to see people credentials, their qualifications for telling us stuff. That's what we want, right? Behold, I have made thy face against their face. I have made thy forehead strong. And the reader says, behold, I have made thy face strong against their faces. I have made thy forehead strong against their foreheads. Meaning God gave us the strength and the durability to deal with these hard-headed Negroes, right? To whenever they come against and scoff and bump against us, we ready to take it there with you, right? Verbally, of course, right? And oftentimes, too, That's why, like, a lot of times people, oftentimes, that's why the Bible says the wicked flee when no man pursue. Because we have the truth, right? As long as I, speak on what thus said the Lord, undefeated, right? Can't be beat, right? Because they don't have the truth, right? They have what they feel, right? And like that song say about your feelings, right? So that's what we're dealing with. So back over here, Luke 21:15. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom which your adversary shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. Right? So he gives us the ability to speak and not to get flustered and confounded, because that's a wonderful thing. Because imagine having this thing here and you trying to do your thing and teach and teach and reach. Then here comes somebody come and confound you, right? You know what you're talking about, but you get confounded, and that can lose somebody, right? But we thank the Most High God that He gave us a mouth and wisdom which your adversaries should not be able to gainsay nor resist, and ye should be betrayed both by parents and brethren, right? So we understand this, right? I say all the time, like, this walk is lonely, not because we don't have other brothers and sisters that we can talk to and confide to and deal with in this truth, but when you look at family and friends, that's on the outskirts, that's on the outside of this knowledge, it becomes lonely because they don't understand the walk, because they still want to live in Egypt. They still want to be in Babylon. They still want to be plugged in. So, because of that, because they don't see it, because they don't understand, it says, and ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren, and kinfolk, and friends, and some of you they shall cause to be put to death, right? That's why it's important that the Bible says, gather yourselves together, O nation not desired, right? That's why we have to come together. Because there's going to be a few of us that don't come together, and they're going to be the reason why a lot of us get put to death, because they're traitors. That's why we have to identify the traitors and excommunicate them. Because, and ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinfolks and friends, and some of you shall cause you to be put to death, right? Because in that great day, when they really start cramping down, they'll be like, oh, that's them Israelite people over there. Oh, that's them people over there. Oh, I know where the Israelites is. Same way how they're doing with the ICE. You have people calling ICE on their neighbors, like, yeah, some illegals over here. People, doing roofing, yard work, can't even finish their job because ICE agents pulling up on them, right? It's like that. And it's going to be like that, right? And it's going to get worse. That's called persecution, in case you don't know, right? And sadly, a lot of our fellow black people thought that stuff was cool, not knowing that is a snowball that is just only rolling and getting bigger, right? That's just a test run to see how you fools is going to act. And a lot of y'all failed, right? And crazy. Then it says, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. That's what's going on. We are hated of all men, right? All nations, right? It's not just the so-called white man that, a lot of us, that we see every day. All nations. That Asian that killed that little boy down in, was that North Carolina? All nations. What happened? Was the spark to the Rodney King riot when a young girl in LA got killed by that Korean dude over here in LA, and because nothing was done with that, then when the Rodney King stuff happened, that just exploded, right? People forgot about that because we focus on the Rodney King thing. But the catalyst was that little girl getting killed by that man and not getting arrested for it, right? So all nations, just like the Bible tells us this too, right here. And Christ just told us, right? Christ just said all nations. So, and it says this, Psalms 81:2. We'll start at 1. Keep not thou silence, O Lord. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thy enemies, because we have enemies, because God enemies is our enemies. Our enemies is God enemies, right? Because we is his people. Just like you have kids, whoever is against your kids, you're going to be against that person, right? And that's how it goes. And it says, for lo, thy enemies make a tumult. They that hate thee lifted up the head. So they lifted up their head through pride, right? Through their abilities to dominate on this planet and control and make laws and legislation and push, with their agenda that they want to push. And it says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and have consulted against thy hidden ones, right? They come up with these plans when they have their little think tanks and their little groups that they go and gather and come up with ideas on how to further oppress the people, right? They do these things, right? It says they take crafty counsel against thy people and consult against thy hidden ones, right? And they come up with plans to come against God's people through their laws and legislations, right? And it says, they said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. So they come up with these great, extravagant, multi-billion-dollar plans to keep us in the dark of who we are as a people, right? They spend millions and millions of dollars daily to keep us dumb, right? And it says, they said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may no more be in remembrance. And that's what's going on. We don't know that we are the people of Israel. We don't know that we are Yasharallah. We don't know that we are God's chosen people, right? We don't know that we are the next rulers of this planet, right? We don't know that because we just think we're just a bunch of niggers, right? But we are the head, the head niggas in charge, right? To be. So that's what's going on there. And it says, for they have consulted together with one consent, they have confederate against these. And you see these different nations, because just like our big brother Christ told us over here that we shall be hated by all nations. That's why you go to a store, they be like, hurry up and buy. You go to the little Indian store, they treat you like you're gonna steal something. You go to the little nail shop, they talk about you in their language, don't know what they're talking about, then and so forth, right? So hated by all nations. Every people have a derogatory term to call us, right? In case you don't know. And it says, they are consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. So all these nations, although they may fight and come against each other, but one thing they can agree on, keep them niggas down. That's one thing they do know that they do agree on. They might not agree on anything else politically, but one thing they do agree, do not let them niggas get anything, right? And it says, the tabernacles of Edom. That's the, if you familiar with cooking and ingredients and recipes and stuff like that, the first thing that's listed is usually the most important, right? So it says the tabernacles of Edom. And who is Edom? The so-called Caucasian, right? That they call themselves today, right? It says, and the Ishmaelites. Who's the Ishmaelites? The Arabs, the gas station workers, the one that be selling you the Lucy's and the blunts and the beers and stuff. Those guys, right? And for whatever reason, they got into the fried chicken business. That's tricked out. I remember the Chinese was getting into the fried chicken business, but it was making it too greasy. So the Arabs like, give us a try. Let us see can we can do the fried chicken business, right? Moab is the Chinese, the ancient way of saying the Chinese. Hagarenes, it's an African nation. Not sure which African nation, but Gabal, that's an Arab nation. Ammon, that's the Japanese. They had a hand in that. Amalek, that's the stuff right there, right? The Jewish man. Amalek. The Palestinians. With the inhabitants of Tyre, right? Ashur, also the Assyrians, right? Also joined with them and have hope, the children of Lot, Shalah, right? So all these different nations that came against us, right? Throughout the annals of time and currently, right? So Christ is not lying when he said that we should be hated of all nations, because we are. And it says, back over here. But there should not, but not a hair of your hair perish, and your patience possess ye souls. And when ye see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. So that's when Jerusalem start getting surrounded. When Vespasian, Titus, and they jayed down on the land, right? Because they got tired of it. We was fighting back for a minute. But then at the same time, the reason why they was able to get us, because like we do now, we were fighting amongst ourselves. So we have a war outside of our borders threatening to attack us. But then we're so busy fighting and killing each other, we have a civil war amongst ourselves at the same time fighting against the Romans, right? So that was a bad combination. And of course we end up getting destroyed and taken out and all that stuff. So now I'm talking to you here, right, about it. So then it says, let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the mountains depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. So meaning like if you in the city, get the hell up out of the city. If you out the city, don't bring your ass back to the city. That's what Christ is telling you, because it's going down, right? Then it says, these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe to the children, to them that give suck in those days. There shall be great distress in the land and wrath upon the people, right? Let's get this real quick. Because Christ said it was written, all those things should be fulfilled that was written. And it says, you start at 16, I think. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Let's start at 16. So this is Amos 7 and 16, and it says, now therefore, so it's the prophet Amos. It says, now therefore hear thou word of Yahweh. Thou sayest, prophesy not against Israel, and drop not thy word against the house of Isaac. So, our people don't like to hear bad news. They like, man, we don't want to hear that shit, man. Dang, don't you got something positive to say? We don't want to hear that, right? But we have to, that's the thing. We have to not be like that. Just because stuff might be difficult to hear, you have to, you're not going to get away from it just by not hearing it, right? And it says, therefore thus said Yahweh, thy wife shall be a harlot in the city. And that's what's going on. Our women is out here, this, you know, doing a little hot girl summer, how Meg was saying, you know, several years ago, you know, being city girls like it's cool, right? You know, dressing like harlots, doing their makeup like drag queens, right? I said it, you know, and I watched over time how our women change over the years. It's like they went from, it's like they went from being trendsetters to now they letting, you know, this, now they're following the trends. And I don't get it. It's like, I don't know how we got to flip like that. Our women used to be the trendsetters. Women around the world used to try to be like our women. And now I'm looking at our women to try to see who they trying to be like. Because I don't recognize them. Right? It's crazy. Like, it started off, and you know, it's crazy because, like, you know, like, and we just see stuff, and we just don't know how, then pretty soon it's just all destruction. Because I remember when, back in the early thousands, when they had workout videos, you know, the little stripper workout videos, right? It started off with the stripper workout videos, and they tried to make it seem like how, you know, it's good for aerobic and building your inner core and all that stuff, you know. So they promoted it like it was health, right? So all these women went and got stripper poles in their whatever they put them at. Started like that. T-Pain, I'm in love with a stripper. That was, you know, that helped promote it. You know, 'cause you gotta understand how they work. They just don't attack this one thing. They come on every fashion, every direction when they come and blitz you with stuff, right? So then all of a sudden the makeup started changing, like how they do their makeup. And I started noticing that women start doing makeup like drag queens. Now, because drag queens have a certain type of cadence on how they do their makeup. It's like, we all seen drag queens and how their makeup be, right? So then I started noticing that. And then it's just the evolution of stuff, right? And it's like, if you're not visual and paying attention to stuff, then understanding how the government works, how they infiltrate, and we got to understand pop culture. Pop culture, we're under the assumption that we decide what's popular and what's not popular, right? Now, maybe with subculture, we have more power over subculture. But even some of the stuff that's subculture, you know, they can, like tattoos. Tattoos was a subculture thing. Now, tattoos is okay now. Everybody got tattoos. I go to a job interview. The person job interview with me, he got a tattoo all on his arms, right? So, color hair used to be subculture. Now you can't, you know, couldn't go to have color hair, but now you go to a job, people color their hair, right? So, what I'm trying to say is we don't decide culture. Maybe we have a little more power of subculture, but, and even not, I ain't gonna say we have power over subculture, because it's subculture because it's not accepted by the mainstream. So, you know, so we still have no power over the culture, right? So, but back over here, it says, where we at? It says, therefore thus saith the Lord, thy wife shall be a harlot in the city, and thy sons and thy daughters shall fall by the sword. And that's what's going on. Gang violence, our youth is dying, you know, whether it's through the violence or drug overdose or whatever the case may be, right? So we have, you know, these different infirmities in our community that's plaguing us to this day, you know. And it says, should fall by the sword, and thy land should be divided by line. And that's what happened. They took the land, and like Christ tells us in other places that should be trotted down to the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled, or, basically until Christ come back. So those people that's in the land now, rather whatever they decide to call themselves over there, they're not who they say they are, because Christ told us so. Then it says, and the land shall be divided by line, and thou shalt die in a polluted land. That's where we at. We're dying in this polluted land. This land is polluted. The water is no good. They killed all the damn buffalo, polluted the air. They got a island of trash the size of Texas floating in the Pacific, right? And then the murderous lifestyle that take place here. The Bible says that blood defiles the land and it pollutes the land. So not only are they physically polluting and destroying the earth, because the Bible says, he that destroys the earth shall be destroyed. They also shed the blood, and blood defiles the land also, right? So that's what we're dealing with. Then it says, and thou shalt die in a polluted land, and Israel shall surely go into captivity. That's what happened to the real children of Israel. They went into captivity, right? They didn't fund the slave ships. They didn't give the money for the Africans to build the slave ships, right? Like those little curly-haired people with the coasters on the top of their head, or the pussy willow hats, right? That's what they did. But the real children of Israel shall surely go into captivity, forth of his land. That's what happened to the real people of God, right? Because God punished his children, right? So when you see us going through stuff, that's because he punished his children. When you look at the other nations, you see their wickedness and they don't seem like they don't really go through anything. That's because they're not his kids. Just like if you go to a park and you tell your kid, hey, I want you to behave this way at the park, and your kid is not behaving that way at the park, you're not going to go and whoop and discipline everybody kid at the park. You're going to discipline your kid, right? Okay. Ezekiel, let's get this real quick. It says Ezekiel 16 and 22. And it says, in all thy abominations and thy whoredom, thou hast not remembered the days of thy youth. Right? And that's the thing, we don't remember who we are as a people, right? And then in this context, it's talking about our abomination and whoredom. It's talking about our adultery, our following other religions and philosophies outside of what the Most High God gave us. That's why it says that thou hast not remembered the days of thy youth. Because the days of our youth, we kept the commandments. We knew Moses. We knew about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we knew our heritage and our culture and what we need to do as a people. Right? And it says, thou hast not remembered the days of thy youth, when thou wast naked and bare and was polluted in thy blood. Right? And so, and we got to understand, we have to come back to the law, statutes, and commandments, right? So, back over here, right? Let's get this too real quick. Deuteronomy 28 and 30. So it says this. And that's what happened to us. And, as we broke God's laws and was taken into captivity and still suffering these different curses that's plaguing our community to this day, it says, and thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. And that happened during slavery. You couldn't enjoy your wife, right? If the overseer or the master want to get her on that same, it can be the same day of your wedding night, right? So there's nothing you can do about it. It says, and another man shall lie with her, thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. We built this place up, but we don't share in the benefits and the profits of, the work that we put in. And it says, and thou shalt plant a vineyard, and thou shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Right? So like I said, we working for free, right? These people made $4.7 trillion off our back, going off from plantation all the way up into the Jim Crow era, right? And still counting if you want to be technical about it, right? So back over here. And it says, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe to them that are with children, and to them that give suck in those days, for great distress in the land, and wrath upon his people. So yeah, it's gonna be horrible when all hell breaking loose and destruction, especially fast forwarding to this time too, when all hell is breaking loose and destruction is coming upon this place. And if you're pregnant and you have, that's going to be hard in that day. You have small little children that you have to protect and look after. It's going to be hard in that day, because you're going to have to protect them. And that's what Christ is saying. It says, that's why it says, woe to them that's with children, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people, right? And that's what's going on. And that's a horrible thing to imagine, to be going through that type of persecution, and you have young children to look after. It's gonna put you in a situation, right? It's 2 Thessalonians 2 and 3, and it says, let no man deceive you by any means, that the days shall not come except there be a falling away first, that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, right? And that's what's going on. The man of sin being revealed right now. That is Esau, right? That is the Edomites. That is the so-called white man, woman, and child, right? That is being revealed, right? For the wickedness that they have done throughout the earth, right? And it says, and that falling in the way of the church, we're in that falling away, because a lot of our people fell away from the Most High God. We follow these different fake religions and stuff like that, right? And it says, who oppose and exalt himself above all that is called God, and that is worship, so that he is God, that sit in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Oh, I didn't know that was supposed to be Jesus. I'm a healer. Remember that picture he put up when I'm just healing. Got the healing hands at top. Right? So, and that's what these people do. They deify themselves, make themselves to be a godlike figure. They have a God complex, right? And they promote it, right? So back over here. And it shall fall by the edge of the sword, and be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. So we're going to be taken away captive to all nations, and then while we're captive, other nations is going to be living in our land while we're gone. That's what Christ is saying. So we've been gone since 70 AD. So who is those people? Christ just told us. Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Right? So that's what's going on over here. Let's get this. Jeremiah 50 and 33, man. And it says this. It says, thus said the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. Right? We were oppressed together. What did that mean in these days? Because if you know the history of the people of Israel, when they went into captivity, it was separate times. It wasn't outside of, Egypt. It was separate times that we was into captivity. We wasn't in captivity together. But in this captivity, here in Babylon, you know, Mystery Babylon, these Americas, it says that the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, right? So we're oppressed together. That's how we know that our Native American and Latino Hispanic brothers is our brothers, because we are the only two groups here getting oppressed together in the land of Babylon, right? And, you know, of course, archaeology, history, biblical prophecy, that goes along with it. But we can see that we are the only two groups getting oppressed in this land. Because it says, thus said the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captive held them fast and refused to let them go. They won't let us go. Like Moses said, let my people go. They would not let us go, right? That's not in the plan, right? They would not let 40-something million, 50, 60, all of us, all of us, they would not just let us just up and leave. Although they act like they want us to leave. But we're the workforce, right? What they gonna do, right? So they would not let us go. Like the Bible says, it says, in all they that took them captive, hold them fast and refused to let them go. They would not, right? Because who else they going to beat up on when times get rough, right? So, back over here. And it says, let's get this real quick. Deuteronomy 28 and 68. Start at 64. And it says, Deuteronomy 28 and 64, and it says, But the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. We got scattered, you know, transatlantic slave trade, sub-Saharan slave trade, the Arab slave trade. The Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, neither thou nor thy father have known, even wood and stone. So we're following these, we got scattered through these different nations, and since we've been living in these different nations, we took up their customs, their culture, their religions that they follow. Now we're following after wood and stone. That Christianity and that Kaaba stone that the Muslim people follow. Right? That's what we are. Jump down to 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Right? And if you don't understand, that word Egypt is a Greek word that means bondage. Because the original name of that land was Mizraim. And the Greeks came down there and they saw how magnificent the city was, the thing was built. And they called it Egypt. Because they said this place must have been built with hard bondage. So they called it Egypt. So, and Egypt to us means, slavery. And it says this. And the Lord shall bring thee to Egypt again. So understanding the context, the Lord shall bring you into slavery again with ships. Right? So, and who went into slavery on slave ships? We did, of course. Not the so-called man that called himself a Jew. Right? He never went on cargo slave ships around the world to anywhere. Right? If anything, again, he funded and insured the cargo slave ships. That's what he did. Right? And it says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt not see them more again. Right? So what he's saying, like, look, because you understand that people of Israel, they walked into Egypt and they walked on out of Egypt, right? So we don't need ships to go anywhere. So he's like, look, I'm not talking about the physical land of Egypt, buddy, right? You ain't gonna see this place no more again, right? We talking about being far off, right? Four corners is four corners. Egypt is not four corners of the world, right? We've been taken all around the world, right? And it says, the way I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there you shall be sold to your enemies. So when we got off those slave ships, and we were standing on those auction blocks, who were purchasing us? The Bible says, shall be sold to your enemies. So these people that kept us in bondage, that kidnapped our ancestors and would not let us go, like the Bible tells us, who are they? Ye shall be sold to your enemies for bondman, slave man, and bondwoman, slave woman. And no man shall buy you. And what does that mean? Because that means we're not going to be able to get redeemed out of this captivity. Because in the Hebrew custom, in the culture, you know, if somebody was in servitude, you know, they're working off a debt, the family member can say, hey, I got the rest of that money that, you know, cuz will owe you. Here, take that and let me get him. We up out of here. And it's cool. You know what I'm saying? So you was able to redeem somebody out of a debt that they may had or bondage that they were in. But the Bible is telling us that there shall be no one to redeem us out of this captivity. Right? There's no man that's going to be able to come and get us out of this. No Martin Luther King, no Marcus Garvey, no Malcolm X, no Elijah Muhammad, no Farrakhan, none of those people are going to be able to get us out of this. Because that glory belongs to the Mashiach Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus Christ. He's going to get that glory when he come back with the millions of angels to free his people. That's who's going to get the glory. That's why it says no man shall redeem thee. Right? So that's where we at with it. Back over here. And there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity in the seas and the waves roaring. Right? So a lot of, you know, stuff going on in the world. A lot of, you know, nation violence. A lot of atmospheric activity. A lot of, you know, they're talking about sunspots that's going on. Talking about solar flares that can potentially hit the earth. Right? That can cause an EMP to knock out electricity and stuff like that. You know, a lot of stuff. You know, these earthquakes that's happening in the Pacific Ocean and stuff like that, that can cause tidal waves, right? So we see these things. And it says, man heart of failing them for fear, for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken, right? And people are in fear of, in turmoil. That's why you got some people that say they don't want to have kids. You know, they don't want to bring kids into this world because how wicked and horrible this world is, right? Several years ago, before that COVID stuff happened, I don't know if anybody remember this. I think this was New York. I think it was some COVID cases in New York that sprung up. This woman unalived herself. I think it was a woman or a man, but I think it was a woman. Unalive themselves because they were scared. This is crazy. They were scared that they was going to get COVID. So their remedy for not getting COVID, they said, you know, I'm just going to kill myself. Well, I mean, I guess it worked, I guess. They plan worked, I guess. Right? Did it? I mean, but that's why it says, man hearts failing them for fear, for looking for those things which are coming on the earth. So there's a lot of that stuff happening. A lot of people is going to be unaliving themselves because of the hell that they see and the turmoil that is going on the earth. There's another story I was trying to think of too. Somebody unalived himself for similar reasons because of how bad and messed up stuff is. Right? That's what we're dealing with, right? And there's going to be more of that. People are going to see more stuff like Tupac told us. You're going to see a lot of things that's going to make it hard for you to smile. Right? And, you know, if you ain't got the stomach for it, you ain't got the spirit for it, you know, the weak will do what the weak do. Right? And it's crazy. Because it says, men hearts failing them for the fear, for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the power of heaven shall be shaken. Right? It's going to be crazy. You know, we think it's only get worse. You know, Like, people gotta understand this. It is a escalation. It is a continual escalation, right? Until this whole thing finally topple over, right? That's what we're witnessing. It says, then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with the power and the glory, right? They're going to see the Son of Man coming in the clouds and the glory with the millions, right? Let's get this real quick. Let's get Revelation 14 and 14, right? It says, then they shall see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and glory, and great glory, right? We're going to see that. It says, Revelation 14 and 14, and I look and behold a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat onto it, the Son of Man, right? This is Christ. This is that black Messiah, right? This is that black warrior that come to fray his people. And it says, having on his head a golden crown and a sharp sickle. He's coming with his weapons of war. He's coming with his crown. And he got a sharp sickle. What do you do with a sharp sickle, right? You thrust, right? That's what you do with a sickle, right? It says, and another angel came out of the temple crying with a loud voice to him that sat on a cloud, thrust thy sickle and reap. Tell him, hey, yo, it's time to go to work, big man. Christ like, yeah. He like, if you, he like, if you ever watch wrestling, you see Goldberg, right? Before he come out, he like punching walls. He hitting his head against the wall. He breaking stuff. Then when he come out, he just boom, 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 break through the door and just come out. That's what Christ is doing right now at this moment. Waiting for that angel to be like, hey, Yahweh Shai, it's time. Right? He just in there like Mike Tyson, just pacing. Just waiting for that great day. Right? That's what he's doing. Right? And that's what he's doing. And it says, and I looked, and it says, and another angel came out of the temple with cry with a loud voice to him that sat on a cloud, thrust thy sickle and reap, for the time come for thee to reap, and the harvest of the earth is ripe. Right? He said, go down there and handle your beeswax. Go handle business. Right? Let's go see what this reaping is all about. Right? We hear all this reaping. Right? Let's see what this reaping is. Right? Let's go to Isaiah. Let's get it over here. Right? Let's see what the reaping and the reaping. Let's go with the reaping and the reaping. Right? Christ is reaping. And what they tell you, you're going to reap what you sow. Right? Let's go to Isaiah 60. Which one? Isaiah 63. When you get there, say amen. That ain't that. Boom. Isaiah 63 and 1. Let's see what this reaping is all about. It says, who is this coming from the city of Basra in Edom? Who is this splendidly dressed in red, marching along in power and strength? It is the Lord powerful to save, right? Because again, he's going to get that glory to redeem his people out of these lands that they're scattered to. And it says, it is the Lord powerful to save, coming to announce his victory. Why is his clothing so red, right? Oh, his clothes is kind of red, yo. And it says, like someone who's trampled grapes. Because remember, what did the angel tell him? Dust in your sickle and reap, for the harvest is ripe, right? And it says, why is his clothing so red, like someone that is trampling grapes? You know what those grapes are? The grapes are nations of people that Christ came and crushed and destroyed. When you read Revelation, it says that he had many crowns on his head, right? He had many crowns because he crushed those nations. He destroyed them and took down their government, their sovereignty. So now he is the captain now. How that was to say, Captain Phillips, I am the captain now. Right? He took over. Right? Because that's what he does. It says, why is his clothes so red like someone who has trampled grapes to make wine? The Lord answered, I had trampled the nations like grapes. What did he say? I had trampled the nations like grapes. Right? That's what he's doing with that sickle when the angels say, hey, go and reap. Right? That's why I told you, I painted the visual of him like a young Mike Tyson in that room waiting for them to say, go out there and do your thing. Handle business. Right? Goldberg beating up furniture, punching holes in the wall, breaking doors until it's time. Right? He's pissed off. The Bible tells you his eyes was red as fire. That is anger and seriousness. Right? That is focus. In case you don't know. And it says, I had trampled the nations like grapes, and no one came to help me. I trampled them in my anger, and their blood has stained all my clothing. Right? God said, look, not God. Christ said, I done got all my clothing bloody. You know, I done packed me a whole little nice little suitcase of robes and stuff. You know, I want to come back stunting. Got me a nice little gold belt, you know. But I got it all dirty. I got it all bloody dealing with these people. You know, because I trampled them in my anger and their blood stained all my clothing. I decided that it was time to save my people. Right? That's what Christ said. I decided it was time to save my people. And it says, I decided it was time to save my my people had come, and it was time to punish their enemies. Right? So he's gonna get with these people. They cannot get away with anything that they think they gotten away with. Right? To punish their enemies. I was amazed. Christ was like, look, I'm amazed. That's why he's just sitting there pissed off, pacing. You know, ready to destroy the first Edomite he see when he come out that cloud, right? When he come off that cloud. It says, I was amazed when I looked and saw there was no one to help me. So Christ is like, I'm looking at the atrocities that have been happening to the Black, Hispanic, and Native people throughout the years. Nobody did nothing. Nobody sent a dango Navy boat, a dango canoe. Nobody put no sanctions. Nobody fired a goddamn musket. Nobody shot a damn arrow or a cannon. What? So y'all cool with all this. Y'all cool with, you know, this whole America, Britain, colonialism, slavery. That's what y'all on, huh? Right? So Christ was amazed. Right? And you know why? Because all these other nations, they got rich, like the Bible tells us. They got rich off of the, you know, us being in a low state. Right? That's why they didn't do anything about it. It was getting, everybody getting paid. Right? What's you gonna do? Right? And it says, I was amazed when I looked and saw that there was no one to help me, but my anger made me strong. So Christ is angry, and his anger made him strong. That's why his eyes is red like fire. And it says, my anger made me strong, and I won the victory myself. So Christ said when he come back with the millions and step off that cloud, I won the victory myself. That's why that suitcase full of clothing that he brought is all stained up red with the blood of his enemies. Right? And it says, but my anger made me strong, and I won a victory myself. In my anger, I trampled whole nations. Right? He destroyed him by himself, destroyed whole nations. Right? And shattered them. I poured their life. What do you say? I poured their lifeblood on the ground. This is my Yahweh Shai, my Jesus, warrior, right? The Lion of Judah, right? That's what he's coming to do. He's not coming back, pat people on the head and giving hugs and say, hey, you know, come bounce on my knee, you know. Not doing none of that. He's coming back to whoop ass and take names and whoop ass, ask questions and kick ass. No, kick ass, ask questions later. That's what he's coming to do. Right? He on that. Right? So back over here. We understand we're dealing with a conquering lion, a warrior. Jesus is not no softy. Right? He ain't no punk. Right? He handled his. Like Jesus said, Jesus known to handle his, and Christ known to handle his. So back over here. Says, when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draw nigh. Right? That's what's going on. And it says, and he spake to them in parables, behold the fig tree and all the trees. Right? Hold on, let's get this too real quick. Let's get this real fast while we at it. 2 Peter 3:12. And it says, looking forward and hasten unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and elements shall melt with fervent heat. Right? And that's what's going to happen when Christ come back with the millions and he destroy this place with the millions, right? This place will burn with fervent heat, right? But yeah, so back over here. And he spake to them in parables. Behold, the fig tree and all the trees. When they now shoot forth, they see and know your own self. The summer is now and nigh at hand. So Christ like, look, that's why it says study to show yourself approved, so you can know what's going on. So you won't be caught up in the dark. When you see certain prophecies and certain things happening, you can know, okay, where we at in this thing, right? And so it says, when ye shoot forth, ye know that your own selves, that summer is now nigh at hand, right? Matthew 13:15, it says, for the people heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, their eyes have closed, right? And that's the thing, we have been, so far removed from what the Most High God wants us to do as a people. Our hearts have waxed gross. We take our morality from whatever society says, instead of pulling our morality from what God tells us to do, right? And we don't understand, and it says back over here, read it back over here. It says, for when they now shoot forth, of your own selves that the summer is nigh at hand. So meaning we can look at the seasons change and tell when the summer is on its way, because the weather and stuff is changing, the leaves and everything, right? But back over here it says, for this people heart wax gross, their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed. So we don't see the bull and the wool being pulled over our eyes, because we're so mixed and blend into society that we don't see the bad, the wicked. It says, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and should understand with their hearts, and should be converted, I should heal them. So, unless these people is able to come out their slumber and see, the error of their ways and the error of this world, they're going to be forever in darkness, But if they ever decide to come out of that, then, Christ will heal them. But they don't want that healing, right? And it says, where that? Boom, boom, boom. But it says, I shall heal them. Boom, boom, boom. It says, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their heart. See with their eyes and hear with their ears, and should understand with their hearts, and should be converted, I shall heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. Right? Because that's why we study to understand, right? To study to show ourselves approved, so we can know the times that we live in, so we don't be, deceived and taken back, by the ways of this world, right? So back over here, it says, so likewise ye, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of God is nigh at hand. So when we seeing these things take place in the global news, and we're seeing war atrocities take place, we're seeing signs in the heavens and stuff like that, right? We're watching the weather patterns and how the weather patterns is not normal, right? And it says, verily I say unto you that this generation shall not pass away until all be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. Right? And that's what's up. Because what the Most High says goes. Right? And what he written through his prophets is going to happen. There's nothing we can say or do about it because it is written. And it's our job to be on the right side of history. It says, 1 Corinthians 7:31. And they that cause this world, and they that use this world, is not abusing it, for the fashion of this world passes away. Right? So the things of this world pass away. That's why we can't be so connected, so materialistic, and so, spellbound on what this world has to offer. Right? And we have to understand that. It says, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. Right? Because God's word stands forever. So back over here, it says, take heed to yourselves, lest any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness. Right? So you have to, take it easy. Like they say, don't worry. Take it easy now. Because sometimes we go through stuff in life, and the stress that we go through, our heartaches, our different dramas and stuff, other people's dramas and stuff, it can derail us from our mission and from our goal, and keeping us, far away from the Most High God, because we're consumed with problems, right? And heartache. And we have not made the time to make that spiritual adjustment, right? So we get caught up in the ways of the world, right? And we get so far into our troubles that we think there's no hope. We don't see a way out, And, that can cause a lot of, stuff like depression and stuff like that to seek in. And, depression leads to a lot of other stuff. So it says, take heed to yourself, lest any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness, and the cares of life, so that the day come upon you unaware. So, you're just busy with life, not understanding that prophecies and stuff is happening daily, and the Most High God is coming back with his son, right? And before you know it, all hell breaking loose, and now you're looking like, dang, what we gonna do, right? Because it came up on you like a thief in the night. Like the Bible says, they're gonna be like in the days of Noah. So we know that when that day happened, we're going to be living like the days of Noah, like everything is cool. It's going to be peaches and cream, and everybody just, like our dear brother in Thessalonians told us, peace and safety, and sudden destruction come. So we know the element and what to look for, and not to be confused when things seem to be calming down and things seem to be like it's about to get back to normal, right? We know that it's another escalation coming when it happens. Right? Take heed to yourselves, lest any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and the drunkenness and the cares of life, and so that the day come upon you unaware. For as a snare shall it come upon them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Right? Because a lot of people are going to be unaware of what's going on, right? And because they're going to be caught up in their own worldly stuff that, they got going on, right? For example, they've been releasing UFO stuff. I mean, people like, whatever, didn't really make a big, fuss and commotion like, everybody thought it would be. People seen it, but like, okay, whatever, right? Because their own personal problems, their own stuff that they going through their life outweighs, whatever little stuff that the government doing, right? As long as it's not right in their face, most people like, whatever. I got this light bill to pay, right? So they're not concerned with those things, But it says, for as a snare it comes upon all of them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Right? So it says, watch ye therefore and pray, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and stand before the Son of Man. Right? That's what we want to do. We want to be able to escape all these things and stand before the Son of Man. Right? Let's get this real quick. And it say, it's Ecclesiasticus 9 and 12, and it says, delight not in the thing that the ungodly have pleasure in. Right? So we don't want to delight ourselves in the thing that the ungodly have pleasure in, the cares of this world, the worldly material things that the people, find themselves wrapped into. It says, delight not in the things that the ungodly have pleasure in, but remember they shall not go unpunished unto their graves. Right? So, a lot of times we see wicked people, seem like they're getting away with stuff and all that stuff, but the Most High God says they will not go unpunished unto their graves. Right? So that's why we have to not, get wrapped up in the cares of this world, because we don't want to be like these people that, end up falling into destruction. You don't know why you're in destruction because you haven't took account of your decisions and what led you to the road that you're going down, right? Let's get this real quick. Psalms 20. Psalms 20 and 7. And it says, some trust in chariots, some in horses, right? And that's what these people do. They trust, they trust in their might and their power, right? Their army, because some trust in chariots and some trust in their horses, because people, you feel like you got a big, strong army, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's where you put your trust in, Like, I got soldiers on deck, right? But it says, some trust in chariots and some trust in horses, but we remember the name of Yahweh our God, right? That's what we trust in. We trust in the Most High God, Yahweh. That's who our refuge is, right? As they trust in their armies. Revelation 16 and 16 says, and he gathered them together in a place in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon. Right? So he's going to gather all these nations. Yeah, go ahead and trust in your army. He's going to gather you all down to the valley of Armageddon where he judges. Right? And it says, let's get Isaiah 62. Isaiah 62. And it says, Isaiah 62 says, and to give him no rest. Oh, let's start at 6. I will set a watchman upon thy walls. And that's what the Most High God doing in these last days. He's putting up prophets, men of the Lord, to warn the people, to tell people what's going on, right? To prophesy the downfall of this society, to prophesy against this nation, right? And it says, I will set a watchman upon the walls of Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace, nor day nor night, that he make mention of Yahweh to keep not silent, right? That's what we do on these streets right here. We prophesy against, this fallen nation, America. We ask for the Most High God to destroy this place expeditiously, in the words of T.I., right? Expeditiously. We ask the Most High God to render judgment, right? When we prophesied and speak against this place, right? We know what the Most High God requires us to bring this thing forth. And it says, I will set a watchman upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. That's why we do this. We will never hold our peace. We will never stop. Never ever. That's why we read that one verse where he said, I made thy forehead hard against their forehead. Right? We're hard-headed Negroes over here. Right? I am so far gone. In this truth, right? For the Most High God. I remember my sister friend was trying to swindle me back into that Christianity stuff. I'm like, I'm too far gone. You can't reach me, right? I'm gone in this. I'm an extremist, right? I can't be reached, right? I'm gone in this because I have set a watchman upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. Ye shall make mention of the Lord to keep not silent, right? So that's what we do. We make mention to the Lord to keep not silent. We want him to do what everything he said he's going to do. Destroy this place like he prophesied, right? Keep not silent, O Lord, right? And give him no rest until he make Jerusalem the praise of the earth. That's what we're going to do. Until he make Jerusalem the praise of the earth, to the whole planet know that Jerusalem is the capital of the universe. Jerusalem is the land of the Lord. Jerusalem is the land of the Black, Hispanic, and Native American, right? Until they know that. It says, give them no rest until he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth, right? That's what we are. It says, and the Lord has sworn by his right hand and by the arm of his strength, surely I will no more give thee corn for meat and for thy enemies, and thy sons and thy daughters shall not drink thy wine for which thou hast labored, but they which have gathered it shall eat it and praise the Lord. So we no longer going to be working for free, working just enough to pay our bills. As soon as they give us the money, we give it right back to them. We ain't going to be doing that no more, right? We ain't going to no longer just working to survive. Striving and surviving. Good time hanging in the child line. We ain't going to be doing that, right? Because he says that, but they have, it says, boom, 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 it says, the Lord has sworn by his right hand and by the arm of his strength, surely I will no more give thy corn to be meat for thy enemy. So meaning, these people that oppress us, they no longer going to be stealing and oppressing us and taking what we make. We make it, they take it, right? It's no longer going to happen no more. We're no longer taxation with no representation. It says, and the sons of the strangers shall not drink thy wine for which thou hast labored. So they're not going to just come in taxes and take whatever they want from us because they think they can, right? But they that have gathered it shall eat it and praise Yahweh, and they that have brought it together shall drink it in the course of my holiness. So we're going to be able to live prosperous, enjoy the fruits of our labor without having to, worried about where our next check going to come from, where our next meal going to come from, how we got to divide and give this up and make supplications. We ain't going to that's not going to be on our mind. Just like how those people are so far removed from the problems of our people where they just, when they do hear something, it's like shock and appalling, like, oh my God, that stuff take place? Oh my God, that happened? That's how we're going to feel in that day. We're going to have that a bliss to their suffering, to their poverty, to their, ills in life. We ain't going to have a clue what the hell they talking about. We're going to see Esau and them talking about no justice, no peace. We're going to be looking at them like, what are they complaining for? Like, what is wrong with you people? Like, we took you out of, we took you out of America. We took you out of Europe and Russia. What is wrong with you people? What? How come they just can't get it together? Right? And it says, let's get this real quick. Zephaniah 3:19. And it says this, Behold, at that time I will undo all that afflicted thee. He says he's going to undo everything that afflicted us, all the hard, everything that caused us harm and rule over us and got vices over us. He's going to undo it. And it says, behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee. I will save her that halt and gather her that is driven out. I will get them praise and fame in every land. Right? Again, so he's gonna make us famous. And we're gonna be, the people. And everybody gonna want to be a part of us. Because the Bible tells us that in that day, they gonna want to take hold of a shirt of a Jew just to be with us, where they can be like, hey, we with this guy, right? We're gonna be like, if you ever seen like Michael Jordan when he was at his peak, playing, everywhere Michael Jordan went, there was a crowd following him. It was a parade. Michael Jackson, everywhere Michael Jackson went, parade. That's how it's gonna be with just one of us, just the average one of us. They're gonna be like, let's go with him. He's a man of God. Those the people of God over there. They're gonna want to follow. And it says, but at that time I will undo that afflicted thee. I will save her that halted. I will gather her that driven out, and I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. Right? So every land that we've been made to put to shame, they mock, they call us all types of bywords. They're going to be, in that day, kissing our butts. They're going to be trying to beg and plead to be with us in that day. Right? And what happens when that happens, right? Let's go to this. Revelation 2:26. Because that's the promise of the Most High God that he gave to his son, and the son is given us to us. Revelation 2:25. Let's start there. But which ye already hold fast until I come, right? And it says, and he that overcome and keep my works unto the end. So that's what we got to do. We got to overcome. We got to overcome this destruction and hell that's about to take place on this earth. When everything fully kick in, right? We have to overcome this stuff, even the hell and stuff that's going on in your life now, right? Because we speak earlier how people done got themselves out the game early because of the heartaches and the troubles that they seen in the world, so they unalive themselves, right? But I gotta tell you this. It gets worse. It don't get better. So if you quitting and feel like quitting and unaliving yourself this early in the game, then you're really not cut out for this at all. Because it gets worse, right? It gonna get worse. And we just hope that the Most High God protect us as it get worse, right? That he keep us, as it get worse. Because again, if you giving up now, then you ain't cut out to follow the Most High God, because it's not for the weak, right? That's why he says, that which ye already hold fast till I come. Stay 10 toes down. And he that overcometh and keep my works unto the end, to him I will give power over the nations. So he's going to give us power over these nations. Because after, like we said earlier, how he came with many crowns, because he conquered all these nations. Those nations he conquered and he took their crowns from them. That's why he got many crowns. He's going to start passing them out to us. Like, hey, you go rule those people. You go rule those people. You go rule those people. Right? And he says, and he that overcometh and keep my works unto the end, to him I will give power over the nations. And he shall rule over them with a rod of iron. So we're going to be righteous rulers. And we're going to rule over them with the rod of iron, with the strictness of the Lord. Right? They will not get away with nothing. Right? There ain't going to be no half-stepping. Ain't no half-stepping. Right? Ain't going to be none of that. Ain't going to be no, sliding money under the table to pay the judge so you can, get off or something like that. The guilty is guilty. The innocent is innocent. Right? And it's going to be done under the Most High God, under how his laws, his way, right? Following after our kingdom, Mashiach Yahweh Shai. he should rule over them with a rod of iron, and as a vessel of a potter shall they be broken to shivers. So if they get out of line, we will persecute them to the fullest extent of the law. Right? Because it says, will be broken into shivers, even as I receive of my fathers. It says, he shall rule over them with a rod of iron, as a vessel of potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I receive of my fathers. Right? So that's what we're going to get. We're going to get that power to destroy these nations, to crush these nations, to rule over these nations, to subjugate these nations. That is the gift and the power of the Most High God. Right? That's his promise. And some people say, I don't want that. You know, I don't want that. But God told us that. He says, ask of me. That's what God says. He says, ask of me. Right? Well, that's what he's talking about. He said, this is in Psalms, I believe. Right here, Psalms 2 and 8. It says, in case you don't understand, we got to read this Bible, understand who this Bible is for, who is God for, and what his promises is. And it says, ask of me. So that means when you go down and pray at night, Lord, lay me down and sleep, and pray to the Lord my soul to keep. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thy inheritance. He says he's going to give us these people for an inheritance. They're going to give us them as slaves for perpetuity. Right? Because it just told us over here, he that overcometh and keep my works unto the end, to him I will give power over the nations. And God is saying this, ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for inheritance, and the utmost parts of the earth for thy possession. Because this whole earth belongs to us, the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian. Right? In case you don't understand it, this is our world. He created this whole thing for us. Right? Let's get that real quick before we get up out of here, in case you don't believe me. Second Ezra 6 and 54. He tells us like this and like that and like this and that. It says, after these, Adam also, which whom thou made Lord of all thy creatures. So you familiar, you know, we all come from Adam through Noah and his 3 sons, right? And it says, after Adam, all these also whom thou hast made Lord of all thy creatures. Of him come we all, right? So again, we all come from Adam through Noah and his 3 sons. And it says, and the people whom thou hast chosen, right? So the whole earth come out of, you know, the descendants of Noah. And then also who God has chosen. So it's a separation, it's a differential there, right? So you see this. It says, all this I have spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou hast made the world for our sake. That's who this big green planet is made for. This big green, blue marble, whatever color this thing is. It says, O Lord, because thou hast made the world for our sake. This is our planet. We belong here. This is ours. He made it for us. And that's why he said, ask of me, and I will give you the heathen as an inheritance. That's why it says, he that overcometh, I should make, and keep that word to the end, I will give power over the nations. Right? That's the promise of the Most High God. That's what he wants to do for his people. Because we are the kings and the princes and the princesses of this planet. We are the gods of this earth. Right? Because the Bible calls us the gods. Israelites are the gods of this earth. Right? And God just means ruler, you know, or power. Right here, I know I said that was the last one, but right here, for Isaiah 14 and 1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. We're going to go back, you know, to our own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them. They're going to be joined with us. The strangers is the heathens, the non-Israelites, right? And it says, They should be joined with them. And they should cleave to the house of Jacob. They're going to be cleaved to us. They're going to need us. They're going to want what we have. They're going to, it's going to be a necessity for them to be with us, right? If they want to live. And it says, and the people should take them and bring them to their place in the house of Israel, shall possess them in the land of the Lord. So what we're going to do, we're going to possess them in the land of the Lord. Because like it told us, he that overcometh, I will give power over the nations. He shall rule over them. And it says, they shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and for handmaids. And they should take them captive, who captives they were. So whoever the Israelites are, we know to be the Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. It says they're going to take them, whoever had the Israelites in captive throughout the ages, there's going to come a time that they're going to take their captors, they're going to take them captive. Right? Because it says, and they should take them captive, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Right? That's what's going on. That's the prophecy of the Mashiach Yahushua Christ when he comes back with the millions and millions of angels with him to render judgment on this planet for what they have done to the Lord's people. Right? So hopefully that was edifying and all that cool stuff. We understand that our King, Jesus Christ, who the people call Jesus Christ, the Mashiach Yahushua in Hebrew name Yahushua. He is not no punk. He is not no softy. He is about that, right? So, and hopefully we about that. Because we are his people. So, I'm going to say shalom, peace, you know what I'm saying? Understanding that we are the Israelites, warrior, priesthood people, right? No punks at all. So, I'm going to say shalom, peace, we out. We out.